Welcome to Making More, the podcast where high-performing business owners and visionary executives share how they're building more than just bottom lines. I'm your host, Billy Fisher, an engineering leader turned business and executive coach, and I'm guided by a personal mission to help leaders create clarity, build forward momentum, and make more of what matters most. Today on Making More, we're diving into the world of veterinary medicine and an individual working hard to strengthen its foundation. My guest, Ashli Selke, has built a career at the intersection of veterinary advocacy, government relations, and professional development. She's co-founder of the Veterinary Industry Board for Empowerment, better known as VIBE, an organization created to give veterinary technicians and professionals a stronger voice in shaping the future of their field. From reforming state legislation to strengthening national associations, Ashli has been at the forefront of creating change in this industry, and she's here today to share her story and vision. Ashli, welcome to Making More.
Thanks, Billy. As you said, I'm Ashli Selke, and I'm a Navy veteran turned veterinary technician slash educator slash policy nerd who spent the last 2 decades elbow deep in both animal care and system reform.
/// all of the good things. So how long did you spend as an actual vet tech?
Well, I'm still a vet tech.
Still today? Okay, practicing.
Yes, I'm credentialed in 2 different states, in Arkansas and Indiana.
Okay, very good. Is it a veterinarian in Indianapolis that you're at right now?
Not right now. I
Okay.
actually left my position at Purdue University College of Veterinary
Oh,
Medicine. In June, I cashed out my PTO, which in academia, you actually get a really nice PTO package.
heck
And
yeah.
as veterinary technicians, we seem to never take vacation. So it added up after 5 years. And I used that to fund my new organization, Vibe Vet. And I chose to put doing business as Vibe Vet because there's so many other vibes out there, but there wasn't another vibe in veterinary medicine. And so
Okay.
it did take me many, many months to come up with a name. Like, we did not have a name for the longest time. We just
You
knew
had an
what we wanted
idea,
to do.
but the
Yeah.
name came later. That's so good. And shout out to Purdue, by the way. Go Boilermakers.
Yep. Well,
A good veterinary school and a good home here in Indiana for that. Very good. So, what first drew you into veterinary advocacy?
so I was in the Navy and I had my GI Bill, and I knew, like, I opted into that so that I could go to school once I was no longer in the service. But I actually didn't go to school for anything I was in the Navy for. I was actually in the Navy, I was a cryptological technical technician, which
What
is
is that?
it is Navy intelligence. So
Okay.
I had a top secret clearance, and they call us the ghosts of the Navy. So I
Oh,
decode like, there's different ones. There's like CTRs and CTLs, like linguists who decode like languages. I decoded electronic admissions.
okay.
So I tell people
Fascinating.
where to shoot their bombs and where to go. And we were the only enlisted personnel that we brief officers. We tell them the intel.
That's so
Yes.
good.
So after the Navy, I had my GI Bill, and I decided like, I could have gone on to the FBI or CIA. That's what usually people in that role do. And I was really intrigued with that, but I just wanted ever since I was a kid, kids have those lifelong dreams of being a veterinarian when they grow up or things like that. And that's what I truly wanted to be. And so I wanted to use that GI Bill to go to school. And so I found, my very first how I could get into the field, and it was to become a veterinary technician. So they have associates and bachelor's degrees. And so, yeah, I chose to get my degree in veterinary technology, or some are now calling it veterinary nursing, as Purdue calls it. So,
Okay.
mhm.
That would be a big shift, right? Because it would so much better align with the medical profession,
Yes,
where
it
you have
would.
a lot of a lot of structure around what it takes to be a nurse, and not many
Mhm.
people question what it takes to be a nurse. If you have a
Yes,
nurse,
it's
you
very
understand.
yeah, it's very understood in human, like as we say, lay terms. And it's actually one of the big pushes in veterinary medicine. But the human American nurses have a very big pushback against it because our
Mhm.
credentialing is so it's not uniform like it is in human nursing. And I agree with the human nurses to have what's the word to be reserved on that, and
Mhm.
to want to make sure that that name is protected. And so that's kind of what we're doing here with VibeVet, is to make sure we have better protections and for veterinary technicians to one day, if they become veterinary nurses, because they're called veterinary nurses in other countries like
Mm.
Australia and England, and many other countries are veterinary nurses, and it's the US and Canada that are veterinary technicians.
I'll be darned. That's so wild because you have medical technicians too. That's a
Yes,
certain person that exists in the medical community. And so again, it's just that lumps everything together in the veterinary world. And that's,
yes,
I think what we'll get into today is that's a large part of the problem with it, is that there isn't any oomph behind veterinary tech that could mean so
yes.
many things. And you actually are also pursuing a master's degree right now in legal studies.
Yes, from Purdue Global, I am pursuing my Master's of Legal Studies. With a focus in administrative and regulatory law, just because I fell in love with regulatory reform and regulations with all the things I do and government affairs. And it was just the next best step for me in order to help a profession that I love so much.
How much time left on that?
Got about a year and a half.
A year and a half left. Well, congratulations on the path for it. And I know that's not necessarily a degree that is going to drive a career change for you. It's going to let you really, I think, dig in more for what you're most passionate about, which
Yes.
is this veterinary advocacy. Um, so tell me a little bit more about Vibe, because you have you've pushed all in on it. You cashed out vacation and everything. Vibe is
Yes.
going to be your
So
baby, really, right?
it is my baby. It is what my full-time job has been this summer. And I my real aha moment for Vibe came when I realized there was no consistent title protection for technicians, for veterinary technicians across the states. And some states allowed unlicensed individuals to call themselves vet techs. And that wasn't just frustrating, it was dangerous for the
Mhm.
public. And it's disheartening for those of us who put in the education and the work to not be seen for our titles and advancements in education. And so Vibe came about from my experience in the veterinary technician field. I was the president of two different state veterinary technician associations, Arkansas and Indiana. And I actually became the president of the national organization called NAVTA, which is the National Association for Veterinary Technicians in America. And there we had a membership of about 12,000 veterinary technicians across the US, and I got to work with different um, policy advocates and at every single leadership table there is. And, I made my network, and, I just made sure that I knew everything that was going on, and I listened and I learned their procedures and their bylaws to learn, what kind of moves our profession forward. And with Vibe, it takes all of those associations that are mainly just used for one role. So veterinarians have the AVMA, or the American Veterinary Medical Association. Technicians have NAFTA, the National Tech Association, and then practice managers have an association. Even veterinary receptionists have an association. So I wanted to combine all those roles together and go for advocacy and legislative change that brings everybody's voice to the table. Because right now, there's only one voice, and that's the veterinarians that makes all the policies and procedures and legislative moves for our profession as a whole, but it's not by the voices of the profession as a whole. So those laws don't really cater to other support roles, and it's causing a very high, the veterinary field has a very high suicide rate. It's one of the highest in the
Mm.
country per field, whereas the general public has, so like some of the dangerous professions have like 3 times the general population, whereas the veterinary field can have up to 5 times the rate of the general population. So it's really a epidemic and a pandemic, and I just really wanted to do something about it. And so this is my and my co-founders, this is our answer to making laws by everyone for everyone.
Mm. So good. And you kind of started this out when you first came to Indiana. You had already been very involved in these organizations, but you found that there was a kind of an absence in Indiana. It was a very small group, right?
Yes, so it was actually the Indiana Veterinary Medical Board. So in Indiana, they had already had in law that there was a place for a veterinary technician, a registered veterinary technician, as we call them in Indiana. And that seat had been vacant for about 5 to 6 years.
Oh,
And so I found that lack of representation, there was nobody voicing concerns for veterinary technicians when their licenses were up for, being sanctioned or anything like that. And that's a high thing, like legality wise and non-representation wise. And so I did what all the other people did over those 5 to 6 years, and I tried the traditional methods. And I'm a neurodivergent person, so I just see the world a little differently than other people. And so I tend to look at the big picture and the different ways around things. And so what I did instead is, because I kept getting the roadblocks of the traditional way, like calling the governor's office and trying to get somebody to talk to, and it just never panned out. So I actually used my connections at Purdue University, and I emailed Mitch Daniels, and
yes.
my man Mitch, I emailed Mitch Daniels and I said, I know you're a former governor. And it was while I was NAFTA president. And I said, from a president to a president. And that's how I hosted the letter. And I just talked about how important representation was for the community. And I, at the time, it didn't bother me what veterinary technician got that seat. I just wanted representation. And then a couple of months later, uh, the governor's office called and said, we really liked your gusto and your wording. And it was very, the governor read it and he really liked it, Governor Holcomb at the time. And they wanted to appoint me to that seat. And then I accepted and I said I would love to. And they're like, great, because your first meeting's this week.
Oh,
Yes. And so
jump right
I
in.
was like, okay, I'll be there. And I made arrangements. And then so it's a board full of 6 veterinarians, and then I'm the only veterinary technician. And then there's a member of the general public. And all the veterinarians and everybody had been there for a long time. And they're like, how did you get here? I was like, well, I just used some ingenuity. I worked
I, I
my way around it.
I knew a guy who knew a
I
guy.
knew a guy who knew a guy.
And then the Vet Tech Association in Indiana. I think that came around the same time. It went from
Yeah,
11 members to you grew it giant.
yeah. So it was around exactly that same week, I think, too, in 2022. Um, the Indiana Veterinary Technician Association had found out that, I was living in Indiana because I had accepted the job at Purdue and moved up here. And they knew about me being, president of Arkansas Vet Tech Association and my presidency with NAFTA, the National Association. So they reached out to me and said that they were really struggling, and, asked if I could come and help them out. And so I was really hesitant because I just taken on the Indiana Vet Med Board appointment, and I knew that would be a a really big undertaking, making sure that the registered vet tech voice was heard in the state. And but I have a big heart, and like anyone, when you say if you don't help us, we'll die. I was like, oh no, I
Oh,
can't have that. I was like,
no.
so
Guilt trip.
I came in and came in as their president-elect, and I helped build relationships with the Veterinary Medical Association, the veterinarians basically association, and made relationships with them. I did partnerships with surrounding conferences. I redid their website. I looked at all their governing documents that hadn't really been updated appropriately since 2016. And so I got everything on board and got their membership up into the 700s from
Hmm.
11 members. And so that's pretty good. I still want there to be more because there's 2,900 RVTs in Indiana.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
as a in Arkansas, I had 88% of the veterinary technicians
Oh,
accompanied
wow.
for in the Vet Tech Association. So I really wanted that number to be high. But um, yeah, we made those partnerships and those long-term negotiations that helped, kind of bring that into the forefront. And I was happy to do that.
88% in Arkansas is a huge engagement number. That's tremendous. So I hope someday Indiana can kind of try and match that. A little ways to go, but I think you're on the right track for
Indiana's got a
sure.
lot more vet techs than Arkansas does.
Oh, okay. All
Yeah, they
right.
have a lot more, but for the amount we had in Arkansas, we had a really high percentage, and I was really happy with that.
Absolutely. So there's a story that you told me when we first met, and I want to tell it to our audience today.
Oh,
It's
sure.
where you found a little resistance, and you were in the middle of kind of you. I think you were on stage or in a
Oh,
forum,
yeah.
and then oh no, look out! What are they doing?
Oh, so as past president of NAPTA, I go every year to the AVMA, so the Veterinarians House of Delegates. So that's where all the decisions are made. Um, for like policies and procedures, legislation people are going to go for, but it's all made by the AVMA, and they do not allow outside members. I've tried to get membership through other avenues
Hmm.
in there, but we're just not able to. So they were actually updating the principles of ethics document for the veterinary field, and it was great at first. Like they said, we will only call credentialed technicians, by veterinary technician, the lay term. And then a Texas delegate got up and amended the wording to say basically that they could call anyone veterinary technicians who they wanted to. And so I spoke up about this, even though I'm not a House of Delegates member. I requested to speak, which is, I read their bylaws, which was the rightful thing to do. I asked the new president, may I speak here? And it took a long time for them to say yes, because
Oh,
it was a new president and they didn't really know the proper etiquette. But having gone there and spoken, I've been going to it for 7 years, like I knew what my rights were. And I was sitting with all the ex-presidents of the AVMA. They were like, you should go, just do this. So all the ex-presidents were kind of in my corner too and said that I should speak. And so I stood, and while, it got really uh tense. And I was speaking about how it was not the right call to do that, to change the wording, and it wasn't ethical, and it was not helping any technician what they were doing. It was actually harming. And I got the lights went off in the auditorium while I was speaking. And so I stayed there, and tears started to well up in my eyes because I am in front of the nation's leading veterinarians, and I'm I'm a veterinary technician. I'm not a veterinarian, so it felt very intimidating, but I stayed my course, and I
hmm.
waited for the lights to come back on, and I spoke my piece, and I got out of there as fast as I could. And
Oh,
they actually sent me a letter because people were outraged about it. And they sent in letters, saying how wrong it was for them to do that. And they sent me an official letter saying that it was an accident, it was a vendor problem, and that somebody else was supposed to be speaking. And I was like, that's not the case, but we'll just let
Uh,
it be what it is. So yeah, I got the lights
yeah,
turned out on me by the national organization in Houston, Texas.
in Texas. Oh
And
man.
I'm a Texas native, so I don't
Okay.
get one there, but yeah, it was a hard day for me.
That's not quite a homecoming there, is it? They turned the lights on you.
No, but as
So
a proud Texan, I stood there and I waited.
that 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 principle, that ethical principle that you were fighting for, what was the end result of that now years later?
The end result was they voted on it before I got to speak on it. And so I had veterinarians come up to me afterwards and say, we didn't realize what we were doing
Mm,
and we didn't know that it meant that much. And that's why I said it's important to have other voices in the room that should be there. If it affects them, they should be there and be able to speak.
mm, mm, mm.
So,
So
but
think of
it's
a,
good
oh,
that
go ahead.
they get to call anyone they want veterinary technicians.
Right. Oh my goodness. So what, there's a setback like that. What keeps you motivated despite a setback like that?
What keeps me motivated is I have a high moral compass. I love to serve my communities that I'm in. Just like, signing up to be in the Navy and, signing over my life for the greater good. And I've done that. And I've also done a lot of volunteer work with police officers. And I'm married to a police officer.
Hmm?
And me and my husband actually were volunteer firefighters at one point in our lives. So just doing what's right and what's right for the people. If I just gave up, like so many people do, not that it's their fault for giving up, they just don't know what else to do. I just want to keep going and I want to stand up for all those people that don't have a voice in the room. I want to be their voice. And also, it's for animals. It's
Mm,
because if we don't have these protections in place, like the general public doesn't know that Sally, who worked at McDonald's 2 weeks ago, could be running anesthesia on their pets. And I think that the
mm.
general public would be really outraged to know that in certain states. So it's not
I
only
would be.
that. Yeah.
We just had our Pomeranian go in for some dental cleanup, but he's getting old, so he needed some extractions too. And so it's like, had to do antibiotics leading up to that, had to make sure he didn't eat any food the night before. So there's a lot that went into it from just the pet owner's side. I would expect the same level of commitment from the vet's office, right? To make sure that
Yes.
they've got their pieces in place to provide the best care for him.
Indiana has very good title protection. We're also one of the 5 states that have a penalty for misuse. So it's
Mm.
actually a misdemeanor to call yourself a veterinary technician in the state of Indiana. The board I sit on, we can actually send you cease and desist. And I
Oh,
actually
wow.
just
Okay.
found it in our laws for the Indiana Vet Board. And we sent out a stern letter to the veterinary community that if they are if they're just saying say their website says meet our 10 veterinary technicians and only 6 of them are actually
Mm.
registered veterinary technicians with the state, then they can be charged $1,000 per item. So those 4
Oh.
people that aren't, they can be charged $1,000 a piece and have to pay that to the board for misuse.
Mm.
And I only know one other state, Tennessee, that's actually gone as far as to put out that strict warning.
Okay. Well, that's good. We're at the leading edge of it. That's
Mhm.
the good kinds of reform there.
Yes.
All right. So we're recording this episode for everybody's awareness in the middle of September. Ashley is preparing for a fairly big month of October, Vibe and Vet Tech Appreciation Week that month. So can you tell us a little bit about what you've got going on for that milestone coming up?
Yes. So Vibe is right now we are doing signing NDAs with our founding visionaries, which we have represented from all roles in the veterinary profession. So we have veterinarians, veterinary technicians, veterinary technologists, veterinary technician specialists, veterinary receptionists, veterinary assistants, practice managers. We have all of them assembled as our founding visionaries. And so each week, for the next 4 weeks, we're working on 5 vets governing documents. So I didn't want to create all of this and say, here, VetMed, I made this for you. I wanted everyone to work on it together and present it to VetMed. And we thought it would be great to roll it out in October during National Vet Tech Appreciation Week. And that would be the week of October 12th. And so
Okay.
that is what we are excited to do. And so that will be when we start taking memberships from the general public and our target members.
Very good. That's exciting. Are you excited?
I'm excited. We have a website already. We have all of our
Oh,
social channels. Yeah, so we're official we've been incorporated and done all the legal governance documents, and so it's been exciting, and it gets a little further each day.
that's awesome. You're making it real. It's so good. What are some of the goals? Are you establishing those goals also in conjunction with the new members, or do you get to kind of have a big say in what those goals are?
So there's big goals that are in there, like our big pillars. When is this airing?
This podcast?
Yeah.
Well, I think I'm going to try and have it out that same week, Vet Tech Appreciation Week. It'll be like a
Okay.
special
Then I
release.
can
Yeah.
tell you what they are.
Okay.
Yes. So big pillars of ours. Um, the biggest push or the biggest lead that veterinarians have to join the Veterinarian Association is their insurance. There's
Mm,
no association that offers insurance to support staff. So we've
mm,
already put requests for proposals out to different insurance companies and entities to see who would be the best. And so we can offer professional liability insurance to support staff as well as veterinarians. So when those veterinarian students are getting out of school, they can choose, would I rather be part of the traditional hierarchy or would I like to be in the all-inclusive 5 vet? And they get a choice. There wasn't a choice before. And or they could choose both, and we have no problem with that. And but that's one place where um we will compete with the veterinarians in that space. And then our other pillar where we will compete is that right now all of our vet tech schools of veterinary technology or veterinary nursing are accredited by the AVMA, by the veterinarians. So we have actually found an alternate accreditor that is accrediting the new veterinary professional associate or the mid-level professional that we just came into legislation in Colorado. And they said they would, love to get into the veterinary technician accreditation. And so that would be millions of dollars reaverted back into veterinary technician. I don't want to say hands. It's just right now there's millions of dollars and it's not being put back to veterinary technicians like for what our schooling costs. So there's 255 schools across the country, and each of them for, let's just say, base accreditation is $2,000. And so you times that by 255 and that's $765,000. And
mm.
then that doesn't include that they've been around for 51 years or that it costs to reaccredit every year or two, a couple
Oh,
thousand. Or if you have penalties, you have to pay for those penalties, and you have to pay for the on-site visits. So it's millions of dollars. And when you have that 501c3 tax break with your nonprofit, then those funding should be going back into the group that you're helping. And so
mm.
I think we can all agree that that's not happening in the veterinary technician profession. We would be a lot further than we are now. So I just want to put it back to the people, I guess, and not have it overseen by the veterinarian solely.
Hmm.
So those
It's
are
not
two
happening
real.
yet, but hopefully, if you have your say, it'll be happening soon. Very
Yeah,
good.
so first we'll start with dual accreditation and things like that, and then move forward. And then there's not really a differentiation between the 2-year and 4-year degrees in veterinary
Mhm.
technology. Right now, the national exam is one exam, whether you do a 2-year or 4-year degree.
Oh,
Everybody
it's the
takes the
same
same.
exam.
So
Oh, that's fascinating.
there's not really a bachelor's credential, but there's bachelor's schools that are accredited. So we want to make sure that there is differentiation between the 2-year and 4-year degree, and that there is an examination for the bachelor's degree that can show their advanced education and advanced skill set. So those are the educational realm and insurance realm are the two big ones. That and our what we highly aim to do is create veterinary technician state boards.
Mhm.
So just how human nurses came out from under physician control many years ago, is they created their own state boards. And so that's why I am specializing in that administrative law and regulatory reforms, just so that I can understand all the nuances. And I sit on a regulatory board, the Indiana board, just so I can help move that legislation along and make sure that it's worded the appropriate way, it's to the letter, how it needs to be. And so we can create those, because then we can bring everybody with us. We can bring just how human nurses have advanced practitioners, 2-year degree, 4-year degree, LPNs, CPNs. We can have our veterinary assistants. We can have our 2-year degree, 4-year degree. We can have our advanced practitioners, which are the VPAs, which are the mid-level professional in Colorado, or we even have veterinary technician specialists that have been around for 33 years, yet, and we have 16 specialty academies, yet
Oh.
they are only just defined in about 5 practice acts, just a definition. And only 2 of them have advanced skill sets, and that's in Arkansas and Colorado.
Hmm.
Much, much room for improvement.
Yeah, I'll say that's a tiny percentage.
Yes.
All right. Ashley, what is your hope for listeners of this podcast, people outside of the veterinary field? How can we help elevate your profession?
Yes, to anyone listening, you matter to this movement, whether you're credentialed in school, front desk, kennel side, taking your pet to the vet. It's super important. If you've ever felt overlooked, underpaid, or silenced in veterinary medicine, know that you're exactly why Vibe exists. And we would like the profession or the general public to get involved and come and see what Vibe Vet's all about. You can go to our website, vibevet.org, or visit any of our social channels, which are Vibe Vet. And the next time you go and take your pet to the animal hospital, ask for the credentials of your team.
Hmm.
Veterinary technicians, if they're credentialed and licensed, have no problem, showing their license and saying, I am a credentialed veterinary technician. And we have 4 names across the US. You're either an RVT, which is registered veterinary technician, an LVT, which is a licensed veterinary technician, CVT, which is certified veterinary technician, or at one state, Tennessee, is LVMT, which is licensed veterinary medical technician.
Oh,
So
they put
mine
medical in there.
get
Okay.
one name, one title across the US, and that's to get everybody to work together, all the states and state associations to intertwine and communicate with each other, which they don't do right now.
Oh,
So that's
okay.
how the public just know we're there.
Yeah,
Know we're there to help your pet. And if you want safety for your pets and you want that educational background, ask for a credentialed veterinary technician to be the one who works on your pet.
absolutely.
Did you have that right?
Yeah.
But
All
most
right.
people don't know.
The title question for this podcast. It wasn't on the outline, so I'm going to surprise you with this one, Ashley. It's making more blank. In your career, in your life at this point, making more what is most important to you?
Making more opportunities.
Making more opportunities. Expand.
So, making more opportunities for professionals to stay in the field. Right now, my profession, veterinary technicians, the last national demographic survey came out, and our profession, they only last about 4 to 6 years.
Wow.
And so that's super saddening to me. And every time, every day I see a different social media post that's like, I finally had to do it. I had to leave vet med because
Mm.
I couldn't get paid. I couldn't find the respect. I couldn't do that, or the very, very, very sad posts we see of, a vet professional losing their life to suicide. And it's because our profession has access to controlled drugs. It's the compassion fatigue. We do euthanasias and then we go right into a puppy exam. So it's super hard on the soul. And
Mm.
I want to keep those professionals. So that's why I want to keep making more opportunities for people to stay. I just want them to stay. I could cry.
That's not so much to ask. That's not so much to ask. You go to that level of effort to get the degree, whether it's a 2-year or a 4-year degree, that should be your career and be able to spend a life in that career. Or if you're lucky like you, get to spend a life not just as a vet tech, but as an advocate for other vet techs. And so it's such great work you do, Ashley. I'm so happy that you were able to join me. And just I thank you so much for the time today.
Thank you, Billy. Thank you for creating space for these conversations. And we're ready to shake the table over here. And we just appreciate you having us today.
We're going to watch you shake that table. It's going to be fantastic. All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Billy.
Thanks for listening to Making More. If today's conversation sparked something in you, let's connect. You can find me on LinkedIn and Threads at Coach Fisher FPT or by visiting billyfisher.focalpointcoaching.com to learn more about how I help leaders create clarity, build momentum, and make more of what matters. This recording is copyrighted by Engineered Consulting Incorporated. Until next time, take care.